The 1940s were a definite step down for the horror genre. World War II was in full swing, and, well, everyone was pretty much distracted by that. The Universal side of things was not doing super hot. Universal basically tried to keep the monster thing going with team-up movies like Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman and House of Dracula, but nothing was really panning out. The well had been gone to once too often. But Universal, bless them, kept trying and gave sequel after sequel after sequel. And one of the sequels to one of the later Universal monsters is what I'm covering today. The Invisible Man returns. The Invisible Man from James Whale felt like it was definitely it came out in the right era, but because it was such a loaded decade for horror, I feel like it still doesn't get the love that it deserves, especially from an effect standpoint. That movie looks so much better now than most movies that I see today in 2023. And I know what I say when I say that, and I'm sticking by it. So when a sequel came out, I'm sure it was hyped up to the nines. But instead of Claude Rains returning as the Invisible Man, we ended up getting Vincent Price. Now, that is by no means a step down. That is of equal quality. That is a very nice trade. However, a horror movie, well, most horror movies anyway, cannot survive on Vincent Price alone. This is by no means a bad movie or a bad sequel. It really does begin that weird continuity with the Universal Invisible Man movies because it was notoriously pretty fickle of who's a griffin and who's related to the original Invisible Man, but he's also a cousin. It's a whole big thing. I'll do a video on it one day, maybe in the future. But really, what you need to know is that the continuity is pretty loose. What I do have a problem with when in regards to this movie is the plot. The basic plot of the movie is that there is a criminal, played by Vincent Price, who commits a crime. Well, actually doesn't commit a crime, but is blamed for a crime that he did not commit. And basically has to use the Invisible Man powers in order to prove his innocence. That's literally the plot to Abbott and Costello Meet the Invisible Man. But in the case of the latter, Abbott and Costello Meet the Invisible Man is a comedy, and this is meant to be taken seriously. It took me so out of the movie, it took me out of it from the very beginning. Two things really saved this movie from being completely mediocre. Vincent Price, I mean, come on, it's Vincent Price. He was awesome in pretty much everything. I mean, you just can't you can't say that he was bad in anything. He always gave 100%. And the effects in this movie are genuinely just as impressive, if not more so, than the original. In my research, I found that this movie pretty much fell behind schedule almost immediately. It was budgeted for a certain amount of time to shoot, and by week 2, that schedule was completely thrown out of the window, in large part because of the effects. I'm sure at the time it must have been a headache for Universal, but with the power of hindsight, I'm so glad that they took the time with it because, I mean, the effects still look really good. So it effectively worked out in the end. And basically, this movie does Invisible Man things. The Invisible Man eventually starts to lose his sanity, but nowhere near the cool way that Claude Rains did it, where he did cut these epic monologues of nations of the world will run squealing in terror from my little invisible finger. Like, nothing as epic as that. It feels very much like a step down from nearly all aspects. It's still a worthy movie, though. I give it a sort of modest recommendation if you're super into horror or super into Vincent Price, like I am. But yeah, between the two, the original and the sequel, it's the original every day of the week and twice on Sunday.